All right, here we go.
Okie doke.
All right. Well, I'll just introduce you first, so we have this officially. So uh, this is the what we call the Author Shout Out podcast. It's part of the International Writers and Inspiring Change platform, which you know about because we've done several of your reviews and features on your
Yeah,
books.
absolutely. Great.
And we deal with authors from all over the world. So today we're dealing with Ron Sewell. And where are we calling you from? Where are you?
I'm in Harwich in England. It's on the east coast of England.
Okay. Okay. Far up the East Coast or where?
It's about 60 miles from London up the east coast.
Okay.
And the sea is about 400 yards that way.
Not bad. You have a view of the sea from where you're sitting?
No, no, because I've got a brick wall around the garden, so it stops the view. But we literally can walk across outside and the sea's there.
Okay.
And there's a huge port called Felixstowe, which is one of the largest container ports in the world.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. So you're essentially that would be is that technically the English Channel or are we talking
No, English Channel's the other way.
the other way? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You're right. Exactly.
Well, it's in Essex, if you know where that is.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, no, I used to visit England all the time. I used to go down to I had some work down in the uh East Essex, yeah, or West Essex area, sorry.
But then anyway, I,
Well,
all I,
okay. So, Ron Sewell, we're talking to you from England, and yeah, let's get started. Welcome to the podcast.
thank you very much.
So, my name is Rial LaPlane. I've done several reviews on your books in the past. I'm also the host of this show on behalf of IWIC, International Writers Inspiring Change. So, I get to talk to authors all over the world, and I love it.
Well, why not? It's we're a weird bunch to say the least, aren't we?
Oh, yeah, I think so. I think weird and innovative and creative, and you can throw the whole thing in a bathtub. But I love it because great intelligentsia to deal with, and I love interacting with them. Why don't we start off with the podcast by you telling us a bit about yourself and yeah, who are you?
Me, uh, I don't think I'm anyone extra special, but my friends tell me I've led a different life. Let's put it very bluntly. I had a horrendous childhood, and I won't go into that. That's long gone. And
Mm.
I walked away from home at the age of 14 with a rucksack, and I actually forged the signature on a passport application form so I could leave the country. And I wandered across France and didn't really know what I was going to do, But people actually are very friendly when you're on your own. Well, I found out anyway.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
I got to Caen or Cannes, whatever you care to call it, and I walked down this jetty and I started asking some of the ships, did it have any jobs going? And on this rather luxurious yacht, the guy said, what can you do? I says, I don't know. He said, well, we need a deckhand. I said, it's okay, I'm a deckhand. And I spent a year on that, and it was absolutely fabulous.
A year, and so you learned how to do it, be a deckhand on the spot.
Yeah. Well, they got it was all English crew apart from the captain who was Spanish, but they taught me what I had to do, and I got a uniform for when they had the cocktail parties, and you served up the drinks and all that stuff, and it was great fun. Like a lot of luxury yachts, even today, you didn't actually go to sea very often because the owners didn't do it. But I won't mention who the owners are. That would be a little bit wrong, I think.
I understand.
But and then I
So
left that.
you were 14 years old working as a deckhand on the yacht.
Yeah, yep, and well looked after, and I got paid for it as well
Did you leave the Cannes area very much, or were you mostly around that area?
twice, twice in a year. So I was living in luxury for most of the time, uh, just doing odd jobs, which was great fun because I learned a lot about this, that, and everything else. Anyway, I
Mm.
left that and decided to come back to the UK because I missed some of my friends. And I was walking past the Naval Recruiting Office, and I don't know why, but I walked in and I said to the guy there, I says, do you guys do any sailing? Think of the word sailing. And he said, we do sailing all the time. I thought I could handle that. Uh, there's various versions of the word sailing, and it wasn't what I wanted. But to cut a long story short, I ended up sailing for the Royal Navy on various occasions. I did the round the world trip and all that sort of stuff. And I did that for a little while when I was supposed to be actually working, in the Navy. I wasn't. I was playing with boats. It was great fun. But eventually I thought I
But
better get.
that was officially, you were officially in the Navy, right?
I was
Okay.
officially in the Navy, sailing yachts for the Navy, or with the
How long,
Navy.
how long did you do the Navy gig?
35 years,
Wow. Okay.
because I decided that eventually they found out that I might be useful as an engineer. And I have a little saying about my career. When I first joined the Navy, they found I could read and write. Said, "Oh, that's okay, he'll do." Then they found out I could do joined up writing. So they said, "Oh, we'll make him an artificer, which is an apprentice, tradesman, whatever you want to call it."
Mm.
And then they found out I could do joined up writing. I could write sentences, so they made me an officer. And
I guess being literate was a big deal.
and I ended up as I got one little command, which was only a patrol boat, but that wasn't bad for an engineer who's never supposed to be in command anyway. But I rose quite. I did all right. I quite happily enjoyed it, And
So it
after,
really became a career for you.
yeah, it did, and they sent me back to school, then they sent me back to college, then they sent me to university, and it was. I got to be honest, it was great fun. I don't think it's the same today. I think all armed services are different now, but in those days it was great fun. I saw the world, and as I often say, I did many things which perhaps I shouldn't have done, but I did lots of things that I should have done and enjoyed them.
The whole package.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
that's great.
and then I left that and I went into designing boiler plant for housing developments and this, that, and the other, and but eventually I got fed up with that, and I moved to Cyprus for 18 years with my wife, which we loved. We loved it out there, but
Beautiful there, isn't it?
we think so. Everyone, people often say, "Why there?" I said, "Because we liked it." And they say, "Well, I thought it was a bit boring in the summer." I said, "But did you actually look at the island?" And they go, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, there's a lot of places on that island that people never. You're a tourist. You sit in your hotel. You sit by the pool. That's not the island.
No,
You got to wander around and see it. The history there is wonderful."
I remember being in Larnaca. Is it
Yeah,
Larnaca? Yeah,
Larnaca. Yeah,
Larnaca a couple of years ago, and it was one of the oldest established towns in the world.
people don't know about Cyprus, but it literally was the crossroads of the Mediterranean
Yeah,
of the known world at that time.
yeah, an amazing place. I loved Cyprus.
Good,
Wonderful
good,
place.
good.
Um,
I wouldn't have said bad if you said you didn't like it, because some people, you've seen it, you've explored it, which is different.
yeah, no,
But
a wonderful place. I would live there.
and but then we came back to the UK, and uh, basically Cyprus is not cheap if you need medical attention.
right.
Uh, don't get me wrong, it's not horrendously expensive, but of course, like anywhere in the world, the older you get, the price goes up. So we
Mm,
decided to come home, and we've got a little place here in Harwich, which suits us fine. And my my wife
enjoying.
my wife works at a charity shop.
Oh, really? Okay, cool.
Yeah, well,
A local shop, huh?
yeah, well. At the end of the day, if you can help somebody, why not?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. It mentioned something. I've read something in your biography. I think it was on Amazon where you mentioned the word retired agent.
I had when I sort of fell into writing because I felt like writing a book. Like millions of people, I'm going to write a book, and I wrote a book, and I'll say it quite openly. It's still on the shelf behind me, and it was absolutely rubbish. But I met this agent, Betty Swartz, who worked for Hodder, and she said, "Well, yes, it's rubbish, but it's not all rubbish." I said, "What do you mean?" She says, and she invited when we were living in Cyprus, she invited my wife and I across to England, and we went to see her in a home. And she said, "Right, what you've got to learn is not how to write, or still tell stories, you know how to do that. She says you've got to learn to put it how it is, not how you think it should be. Stop thinking about it, write it. And I thought, actually, she's got a point there. And she was very good. She was very hard, very tough, but a lovely lady. And I think now I actually can write a novel.
Oh, you definitely can.
Thanks to her, you know.
Yeah.
But she said, don't worry about the rules or anything. You've got to tell a story that people can relate to. They got to feel part of the story, or whatever way you want to look at it. You know, she
Mm,
said, if you're just writing down a million facts, well, we go and buy a dictionary or encyclopedia. But
yeah.
she's a lovely lady. We still converse now. She's getting on a little bit now. I'm saying that, and she's older than me, but she's a lovely lady, and she always demands the first copy of a new book. She gets it, so she can tell me whether she likes it or not. And she would tell me if there was anything really wrong with them. She would say, "Go back to page X, Y, Z because you got it wrong." But that's the agent.
Yeah, but
That's who you want,
yeah,
isn't
but
it?
that's the best way to have it. You need to have somebody who's honest with you.
Yeah, that's right. Mind you, I've got my wife, who's the best critic in the world. And people say, "Oh, you can't use your wife as a critic." I can use my wife. She says, "You want the truth, and I'll tell you the truth." She says, "Because you don't jump up and down and shout. You know, that's not what I meant. You say, let's look at this. So what haven't I done, or what have I done?" And the classic I come up with one of my early books was some people had died on this ship, and about 2 pages later, I'm having a press conference. My wife says, "What's wrong with that?" I said, "I don't know." I said, "This was in those days." She says, "You haven't taken the bodies away yet, and they're having a press conference." Good point. But and people say, "Well, of course you would take them," but you don't, because you get involved in the storytelling.
Uh,
Sometimes you forget things, and
yeah, you forget some of the meat on the story. Yeah. Well,
and so I'm very lucky that not only do I have a retired agent who kicks my backside for me, but I have a wife who is very she's not my editor. She's my does it read okay? But there we are. That's my sort of brief history of writing. I was once, I say, but after
well,
it,
what? Here's the question: what inspired the writing? Was it your travels or the experiences or?
when I was at school many years ago, like everybody else, you got given essays to write or whatever.
Mm,
And the one I remember, and you'll smile at this, there's a poem by Wordsworth, I think, is "The Host of Golden Daffodils," which goes, and there was a host of golden daffodils fluttering in the breeze or whatever. And that was the start of the essay. The first line of the essay had to be. And when we finished, the teacher, who was a smashing guy, called me out. He said, "Ron," he said, "everyone else has gone into a romantic, lovely setting. The sun's shining. People are falling in love in the daffodils and all the rest of it." He says, "Not you." He said, "Why are you so different?" He said, "You start off with the first line, and there was a host of daffodils waving in the breeze on the top of the hill, and across came a Panzer tank and crushed them." He says, "You catch the attention." And I remember that. And when I got down to actually thinking about writing, that's where it started from. That it was always there in the back of my mind. I'd like to write something. And
so when did you actually start writing officially, like in your life?
no, and then I start writing. Uh,
I mean, was
19.
was Abby your first book?
No, my first book was called A Basket Full of Sleepers, which you
Oh, okay.
which is historical and, well, let's say historical. It's I don't know if I can't hang on. Where are we? As all good authors, we have a copy. Can you see it?
Yes, yes.
That was it. I got caught by the Vanity Press. It cost me an arm and a leg to publish, but funny enough, I sold over 1,000 copies.
Not bad.
But it's and that was my first attempt. And I learned a lot from it, especially about Vanity Press. Uh, but I managed to sell all the copies I had produced. So I actually made a few pounds out of it, believe it or not. That company has gone into liquidation yonks ago. But I sort of, it was good. It was good in that it taught me lots of things to look out for, to think about. And
Mm,
shortly after I met Betty, when I was writing You Can't Hide, when I'd written You Can't Hide Forever, which is another one, and between learning the hard way and from Betty Swartz, my retired agent or friend now, you know, you slowly progress. But I think you've
mm,
got to how can I put it? You can't just if you could just everyone could just sit down and write a bestseller, wouldn't life be boring? Because you can't. Well,
yeah,
I don't think so. I think you've got
yeah.
to practice the craft. You've got to see the variations, and I'm very fortunate. I have a circle of friends uh, who always want to see my writing. When as soon as I finish the first draft, they want to see it. Now people say, "Oh, you shouldn't do that." They're friends. No, these friends are very intelligent. They know how to tell you off politely, and they will always read through it and go, "That was good. I enjoyed the theme. What you need, how about this or that?" I might not necessarily follow what they say, but it in the past has guided me to sort of condense some bits, open up another bits. People say I'm okay at descriptions. I think sometimes I go over the top in descriptions, and you should possibly need to cut them back. But everyone's different. I do it my way, and it now seems to work. But I wrote a lot of books before it started to work.
No, I mean, it is like anything. I mean, it's a learning curve, and
Yeah,
you have to just do it. And the trick, I think, from my own experience, is you just have to write what you want to write.
yeah,
And just
absolutely.
like your publisher agent said, you got to say you just got to put it down, and not worry about whether it meets protocols or how you're supposed to write a book or whatever rules there are. And
As I say, when I started doing my first series was a series of 6 books called The Collectors, which I call adult boys' own novels because that's exactly what they are. And there's a lot of stuff in there which comes from my past experience here, there, and everywhere.
mm,
I'm now writing what I call police procedurals, which I don't even know why I started. I just suddenly fell into it, and Abby was one of them.
and that's
Uh,
what Retribution and The Forgotten are, right?
yeah, and I'm now on another one called the Flower Girls, which
Mm,
is coming along very nicely. All the same, but all different. If that you know what I mean by that, they're all police procedural, but and I've moved some of the characters from one book to the next. Some of the characters in Retribution are also in Forgotten, and are also in the Flower Girls, but they're only the higher Hegians than the police force.
right. The one I remember, I mean, I've read three of your books. I'd love to read that other one you're writing, or you,
Well, when it's done, I'll ask you to do it.
yeah. But I remember, I think it was Retribution. Uh, I really liked the way that one came together at the end.
A lot. I don't, how can I put it? A lot of people have told me quite bluntly. I have a friend, Trisha, who is a lovely lady, and she says, "Why don't you ever give me any of your books?" I said, "Because this might sound a bit wrong, but she's very prim and proper, very nice. I love her.
Ah,
I love her dearly, but you have to be careful what you say sometimes." I said,
mm,
I don't think you'd enjoy Retribution." And she took it to Tenerife on her holiday with her husband. And her husband says, "I don't know what you've got in that book," when she didn't put it down. And
wow.
when she came back, she says, "I loved it. I loved the whole thing," which just goes to show what the
Yeah,
writer might think can be totally wrong.
yeah, totally. Because it's got some brutal parts in that book. So yeah, like one could be a little. If you thought somebody was oversensitive, they might be offended by it. But I mean, I found it really,
But
really good.
then
Really,
you only got to pick up a newspaper, and there's your brutality.
yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately.
It doesn't get any worse than the Gaza and Iran and all this other stuff. And
Oh, well,
okay,
I
good.
got
Yeah, go ahead.
talk about brutality. I was involved in some brutality out in the Far East when I was a young sailor, and it wasn't me being brutal. It was me doing what I was told to do, doing my job,
Mm,
which ended up within some. We were open fire on, and we fired back, and that's as far as I'm going to go with it. But you can imagine what it was like. You know, it's not a choice. You get on with it, and it took me a while to get over that as a young man. But you got to realise you're doing what you're told, you're doing what you ordered, and if I hadn't done it, I'd be dead.
mm. And that was where were you located at that time?
Not far off, not far from Borneo.
Okay.
So you know these things happen to you. You know, I didn't ask to be there. I was put there,
Mm,
along with like you know the guys up the Gulf at the moment and that. I don't envy them, uh,
no.
and but I don't want to get involved in that because there's a lot of going on which
Yeah,
I
it's
don't agree with. I don't agree
yeah,
with.
it's a tough subject to talk to anybody
Yeah.
about, right? What would you what's your favorite genre? What do you like writing the most, or is it multi?
Well, I thought it was adventure, thriller, adventure, but
Mm,
now I'm into the more of the thriller, police procedural. So I'm enjoying doing this. I didn't. I enjoyed doing the first series of The Collectors, which was thriller adventure,
mm.
and I stopped writing them because the characters got too old, and I didn't know where I was going to go from there. And I started with Abby. I think someone said something or saw something, and I thought I actually like this. This is good because it's far broader, and I think a lot of more people enjoy that type of book. I don't know.
Mm. It's a very popular genre. I mean, police procedural uh, and just general crime and that whole area is massively popular in the reading world.
But I now, you know, will I write another one after The Flower Girls? I'm sure I will, but or maybe I'll just retire. I don't know. I enjoy writing for one reason. Well, not for one reason. I do enjoy writing because I enjoy the research, and it's amazing what you find out with the research which you never knew about.
Yeah.
But uh, I'm not as young as I used to be, real, and it keeps the brain going round.
No, I think it's very healthy for the mind.
Yeah.
I think writing continues to stimulate the mind. We're certainly not going to be people who get Alzheimer's.
Well, if I do, I'll have lots of stories to tell.
Do you find that writing is cathartic for you?
Yeah, I do. I where I am now is where I write predominantly.
Mm,
It's what we call a conservatory. I don't know what they call them where you are, but anyway. And it's very I become part of the world I'm writing about when I'm writing it. I'm
mm.
there, I'm watching it, and sometimes I do have an argument with my characters. Most of the time they win, I don't. But and it's so relaxing. Uh,
Yeah,
there are times when I've written myself into a situation and I go, how do I get out of this one? And you've got to be sensible. Well, I think you've got to be sensible. And I always quote the bit, the hero always jumps the chasm. Well, don't make it the world long jump record because it won't, people will just go, that's a load of rubbish. You've got to make the chasm at least wide enough that they can jump over. And
yeah.
I try,
Otherwise, they can't identify with your character if
that's
he's supposed
right.
to be Superman. Yeah.
I always try to make sure my facts are absolutely correct.
Mm,
And you were talking about Cyprus earlier on. Robert Ludnam, whose books I enjoyed. I've read all his books. I thought they were very good. But like all very rich and powerful writers, which he was in the end, he wrote a book which involved Cyprus. And I can't remember the exact figure now, but he put so many airports in Cyprus when there isn't
they
there.
don't
They're not
exist.
there. They don't
No,
exist.
they don't.
They never have existed. But his researcher obviously got it wrong.
Uh,
But he didn't, and he obviously paid them to check the facts. But and I can't remember the name of the book now, but although I thoroughly enjoyed reading it, that's always stuck in my mind. He was wrong.
Mm,
And I don't think a writer can afford, you can exaggerate, you can make things up a little bit, but you can't be wrong because you lose your credibility.
that's right. That's right. You can only stretch the fiction box so far.
Yeah.
Well, how much do you interact when you're writing the story? Are you mentally interacting with the characters you're writing you're writing about, or do you envision yourself in the scene? I mean, how tangible is it? How
Most of
virtual is it for you?
most of the times I'm with them. I'm
Mm.
there. I might be
Like
in
a
the back.
fly on their shoulders.
Yeah, I'll go for a fly on the soldiers. Yeah. Uh, and that's why I say sometimes I have a row saying you can't do that. And they basically turn around and say, well, I'm doing it. Shut up. Uh, I find not that my wife's here, but she'll say, I'm having a conversation with myself and she can't hear the other person, but I can. I told you to start off. I said, and you know as well as I do, some of us writers are a bit weird sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I have the same problem here. I'm sitting in my office and I'm talking I'm vocalizing what's going on in the book. I'm just hoping in the background nobody's like recording.
Well, you're talking about vocalizing. Say, my ex-agent, Betty, she was reading one of my earlier books and she says, look at this. She says, these people aren't gentlemen, are they? I said, well, no. I said, they're quite nasty, actually. She says, I don't think they'd actually be saying that, would they? And I said, well, I did actually want to put in what they would say. She says, why not? That's what they would say. And she said, I'll tell you what they would say. And she told me quite bluntly what they would say. I said, you're right. If you go out of the villain's a villain, is a villain.
That's right. And it
And
has to be real too. It can't be
yeah,
like, villains are all speaking with the perfect Queen's English and never swearing or something.
well, I was being too polite.
Yes.
And, and that's wrong. I know as a writer, but I've always said there's nothing wrong in being polite. But when you're writing a book, the characters have got to be true to life, or as true to life as you can get them.
Yeah, because otherwise, like I mentioned earlier, if the reader can't identify with them, if they seem unreal, then you lose them right there.
Yeah, and I want the reader to be there. What's going to happen next? Why is that happening? Oh, damn! I've got to turn another page, and it's getting late. And they turn the
Mm,
page. That's what I try to do.
yeah, exactly. Just out of curiosity, how much profanity do you think is acceptable in a novel?
I think I've basically answered that question. If it's necessary, it's necessary. But
Mm,
when I was in the service in the Navy, they had the armed forces have their own language. There's no ifs or buts about that.
mm,
And every second or third word can be a swear word to a civilian.
mm.
To the armed forces, and I mean the Americans as well as the British, it's not. It's a descriptive word. And
Right. It's part of the vernacular. Yeah.
what I always tried to do was when I walked onto the ship, you would say my language changed. When I walked off, I reverted back to being a civilian. So I tried to keep the two separate because when I
Mm.
went home to the kids and all the rest of it, the last thing my wife would have tolerated was me swearing my head off, and I agree with her. But if you're writing, as I say, there are times when we would all, irrespective, would swear, perhaps almost inappropriately,
Mm.
but it happens. The
Yeah,
nicest people have been known to swear, and the toughest people have been known to apologize for swearing. But it's what it is, isn't it?
yeah,
So
yeah,
if it's necessary, yeah, I'll put it in because it's right to be there.
right. It's almost like it's sort of like that's where it escalates into the language at that point.
Yeah, I've got a friend, Richard. He's an ex-superintendent of police, and he swears about every third word even now. But we know Richard will swear not because he wants to be, look at me, here I am. It's because that's what he does, and he always has. How he ever got to where he did in the police, I'll never know, but he did. But obviously, he was a very good copper as such. But he
Well,
swears,
obviously,
sorry.
profanity is obviously not a requirement then.
Well, I suppose when you're dealing with the bad guys, that's the way you communicate. I don't,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
but
you're facing that kind of world, so that's
yeah.
yeah. So then, speaking of the bad guys, how much of your work do you feel is inspired by the what's going on in the world right now, like especially in terms of police procedural stuff? Do you get ideas from what's happening now, or is it
Well,
just pure
have you
imagination?
heard of the grooming gangs in the UK with young girls, where uh, these girls are groomed and then they're fed booze and drugs and all the rest of it, and unfortunately they then get raped, etc., which is not nice, but that's it. Well, I've used that in the Flower Girls, but I've turned it round. The girls are doing the grooming.
Well, that's
Think
interesting.
think about it. You
They're
know,
doing the grooming.
they're getting their own back on men in society.
Oh, interesting.
So yes, I've been the influence is in one direction, but then I've gone and turned it over and taken that as the start of the story. And that's why they're called the Flower Girls. Well, apart from that, all the girls' are names of flowers anyway. But it's different. It's different, and
Uh,
it takes into life in general. Uh, if you have daughters, we all worry about our daughters,
mhm.
but we don't worry about the sons so much.
No.
And during one of the interviews in the Flower Girls, the police are interviewing this young girl with her mother sat alongside. And the mum's trying to be, my daughter wouldn't do this and my daughter wouldn't do that. She's a good girl, etc., etc. And the daughter then loses it and tells her the facts of life in some very good language, you know. And you think about it, well, that's what she would do. You know, in my young days, what went on behind the bike shed at school was you had a crafted cigarette. I'm sure today there's a lot more goes on behind the bike shed. And that's called life. It's always happened, let's be fair.
Yeah, yeah, sure. It's been going on since the dawn of
Time
time.
began.
So,
Yeah. He said, I've now got the girls have turned it round. Unfortunately, there's other things happen, which I won't go into, but that's where the thought came from. Instead of men
mhm.
doing it, the girls are doing it and they're blackmailing a lot of people.
That's a great theme. I'm going to look forward to that book for sure. When's it coming out, by the way?
Well, I'm at page about 275 at the moment. I've got a few. I reckon when I get to about 320, I'll have finished and start the big major edit on it. So you're looking at maybe by the end of the year, I would think.
Great, great.
And
Uh,
where are we? Not that I don't know if it'll show up very well on there. Can you see that? That will be the cover, but the cover will be wrapped around,
mm,
and it'll be the title. So you'll have two girls on the front, two girls on the back, and one on the
on the
spine.
spine.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's great.
but there we are. So, but hopefully by the end of the year, anyway. All things being equal.
Another question for you, just a thought. Given the contemporary scene we see, like with wars, like the Gaza, Iran, all this conflict and stuff, uh, how much, from your perspective, how much value is there in an author creating stories that sort of incorporate that stuff, maybe fictionalize it, but what value does that have in terms of the readership? Or do you think readers are even interested in reading stuff like that since they're already reading so much about it in the news and the social media?
Well, you spoke about my book. Oh, oh, crikey! First one you said, I'm
Abby,
Abby. One of the last chapters of that, you may or may not remember, is in Afghanistan, where all hell breaks loose with the British and the Americans fighting the Taliban, and that is real gruesome truth.
Mm,
So I think I played it right. To put it bluntly, the good guys were wearing white suits and the bad guys were wearing black suits. Uh,
mm,
I don't understand the Taliban, how they can treat people or human beings as they do, but they are like lots of. I'm I'm going to be very controversial here. I think the extremists in all religions seem to be very fanatical about they're right and everyone else is wrong.
mm,
I can't agree with that because when I used to be at sea as an engineer, it's quite often that life was boring because you're only a good engineer when something goes wrong. So I tended to read a lot. And there came a time in my life where I was looking at religion, not for any religious purposes, but people go on about the Christian faith, the Catholic faith, the Muslim faith, etc., etc. So I read three books: the Bible, the Torah, and the Quran. I
right.
read the three of them just to try and decipher what was in them, and they all speak peace.
Mm,
None of them speak war, and that's what I learned from that. And now I wonder, well, why are all these people fighting each other, saying we're better than you? Because if they went by their own books, they wouldn't be. We are all equal, you
that's
know.
right.
Uh, and that I think a lot of these fanatics, and I'm not just saying the Taliban, generally speaking, religious fanatics are a pain, and they're causing most of the problems in the world. That's my view.
Mm,
Whereas I've got friends who come from different parts of the world. I see them as my friends. We don't say, "Oh, you can't come tonight because your skin's a darker color than mine," or whatever. They're just human beings, and you sh we should treat each other like human beings,
mm,
not differentiate because you've got a good suntan,
yeah. Yeah.
So that's my answer to that, if that makes sense.
It totally does. And it's a great perspective, Ron. I love it.
Well, it's I've not, how can I put it? After 35 years in the Navy, I've seen things that most people in this world wouldn't want to see. I can't say I particularly want to see them. I've dug dead bodies out of landslides. I've, you know, I've injured a few people with machine guns and all that rubbish. Uh, and you ask yourself why?
Mm,
What's the reason for it? What am I, I accept I was doing what I was told, but you gain a totally different perspective on life and what it's worth.
mm,
So maybe that's sort of, albeit as I said, my origins weren't exactly the most pleasant in the East End of London, but I grew up and I've got my own thoughts these days. I lead my own life with my wife, and the kids all say I'm a geriatric, but then that's fair enough. I've got four kids that have all got one thing from me, if nothing else, and it's called the work ethic. They all work damned hard, and
good.
they're doing okay. Which I think, well, if I did one thing right, I got that right.
Yeah, that's good. Well, one final question for you before we do the wrap up on this. What you just told me, your perspective about from your experiences, what you've seen and the world in general. Do you try to incorporate some of that message, that perspective into the theme or the weave of your books?
I try to. I will hint at it. I will not. What's the word?
Soapbox.
There'll be facts. I'll sew them in there. What the reader thinks of it is entirely up to them. I will not say you cannot think this way or you cannot do this. This is
Uh,
wrong. That is right. I will put facts in there which are true.
mm,
And it's, if you remember in Retribution, a dam burst. Well, we had in Wales, about 60 years ago, a dam burst there. The problem with that one was not only did the dam burst because of the rain, it took down what they call a slag heap, which is the old minings from the coal mines.
Right.
So that was used about dams need to be checked and inspected. You can't just leave them. And I think quite often in all countries of the world, something is built, and when it's built, it's marvelous. It's the latest technology and etc. etc. And then it gets forgotten about. And that's the problem with all of us. It's like if you have a car, you can drive it for 100,000 miles a day. I got away with that. I haven't had to maintain it. Then one day you try to brake and it
It
doesn't.
doesn't
And you suddenly realize the 100,000 miles just caught up with you. You've got
work.
to you got to do things in the right order. That's the way I'm looking at it.
Uh, that's good. Good answer. Good answer. All right. So in the future, we've got the, what do you call them again? The
The,
butterfly,
the
the
flower
flower girl?
girl, flower
Okay.
girls,
So
yeah.
that's your current work.
Current work, yeah.
So we can look forward to that. Maybe we can do a feature on that sometime with the iWick. Get that.
I think you will enjoy it because it's police procedural, but it is. I've twisted it around a bit. I think.
Yeah. Good. No, I love the plot line. It's great. Well, here's my final question for you before we wrap up. If you were going to give a tip, advice to somebody jumping into the field or deciding to become an author, what would be the one thing you tell them as a tip?
Don't listen to people telling you all about the rules. Grammar rules are there for all of us, but rules of writing, I don't think they actually exist, apart from many other people's minds. Oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. So yeah, write and see if it's no good, someone will tell you.
That's right.
If it's good, they'll also tell you.
That's
But
right.
don't listen to always people saying, "Oh, you can't do this, you can't do that." You know, there's as I say, there's grammar which we should follow as best we can. You know, it's like a classic one is well English. Now, don't get me wrong when I say this, please. People say, "Oh, it's American English." I said, "No, it can't. It's not American English. It's English spoken by Americans or Australian English. No, it's English spoken by Australians." And she said, "Well, it's not the same." I said, "No." I said, "But if you go to Cornwall in England and listen to them speak there, then take a quick train ride to John O'Groats at the other end of England, you won't understand what they're saying at the other end." And I said, "That's what you're listening to. It's English being spoken by different people.
But it's still the same language. Yeah.
Still the same language.
Yeah.
We all treat it, we all get taught, listen. We only learn a language from a very young age by listening. And if people talk badly, you'll unfortunately talk badly until you're told better. But my
Right.
no, my thing is don't listen to the rules, apart from obviously the grammar.
Yeah.
That has to be reasonable.
That has to be reasonably. There has to be. Well, I agree with you completely on that. And I think, in my experience in dealing with a lot of authors, not all of them, they just jumped in and started writing. They didn't take any official course or classes or learn how to write. They just started writing. And I think, you know, I think it's Hemingway who says, if you want to write, just write.
Yeah. So
You know,
I was lucky. I met Betty Swartz, who used to work for Hodder, and she, I think I'll say it quite nicely. She battered me in the right direction.
yeah. Well, good books overall. I've enjoyed your work. So,
Well, I thank you
um,
for that. That always pleases me that someone enjoyed my words, and that's all that matters.
yeah, kind of that's
I'm pleased to say you're not on your own there. A few other people have enjoyed them as well.
yeah, I'm sure. Ron, we're going to end off at this point. When you do have the new book out, yeah, drop me a line or drop a line to the iWick people. You know where the
Yeah,
website is, and
absolutely.
they'll contact me to do a review. I'm sure.
Well, I'll ask for you to do it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, you can ask for me to do it. I'm always on the sideline doing it. I do reviews for them as well. Um, Been great talking to you. I just love your story.
Well, it's nice to actually put a face to a name now.
Yeah, Dito, Dito. And what we'll do is I'll this podcast will be posted on the podcast page on their site. It'll be permanently available, so you can refer people to it to see it all the time. And also, they will send you a copy of the podcast. They'll send it to you through it's just a document delivery service. It's a free service. You just download it, so you can
That's
post it
lovely.
on your website or you can pass it around to people, whatever.
That's great. Thank you very much indeed.
Well, anyhow, great talking to you, and well, enjoy the weather in England.
Well, as you can see, the sun's shining at the moment.
Yeah, you have better weather than we do here in Sweden. So,
Well, you're a little bit further north, aren't you?
yeah, we're a little bit further north. We're kind of up at the northern end of Scotland, if you compare the
I,
parallels.
I, well, when I say I know it well, we used to do what they call fishery patrol up in your waters off Norway, Sweden, and Denmark quite often, and it got a
Yeah,
little bit bouncy at times.
I'm sure.
Anyway, you take care. All
All
the
right,
best.
Ron. Great talking to you.
And you. Bye now.
Bye bye.